Welcome to the Study Nicole Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Ruth, and here we explore the journeys that shape us, from big adventures to small moments. Let's get into it. I feel like we should do this almost like laying down, like different yoga pose every 2 minutes. Okay, so welcome to the Study Nicole Podcast. I'm super happy that you're here. Or actually, I should say that I'm here in this beautiful studio. You just gave me a tour and it's gorgeous. There's a lot of works in progress, a lot of things that are already done. And so for those of you listening, if you don't know Kacey, I'll do a little introduction. I feel like I'm going to miss a ton of things because you seem like an amazing person. And so Kacey, you're originally from Toronto.
Yeah.
You are the owner of this countryside studio and gym. You're a world traveler. You're a mom of 3. And actually we met when you won the Infusion Credit Union. I was working for Trident. I was working the camera. I loved your speech. I loved your pitch, I guess you call it. So how was that night for you?
It was a really surreal experience. I was nervous. Really nervous. It's hard to pitch yourself and your idea that you put your heart and soul into, and for it to be judged. It's like, okay, do you think my idea is good enough? So it's kind of really putting myself out there. That was really hard. I am a yoga teacher and I want to practice how to breathe, and I couldn't breathe up there.
And I remember you doing that, being like, okay, I'm going to breathe and, practice my breathing. But honestly, even though you were doing that, like we were all like there with you. Like I even felt like some of the other ladies, this one other lady during her speech, when she was, having a hard time, she says, I'm going to take the yoga teacher's advice and do my little bit of breathing. And so it's kind of very cool to hear a little bit of your story.
Yeah.
How you're a world traveler and all that jazz. And somehow you were living in Toronto and you ended up in Hamiota.
Yeah. It's
middle
really
of prairie.
tiny town.
But we're in a yoga studio. And I kind of want to talk about how did you become a yoga person, a yogi? How'd that happen?
Well, it was a long journey to get here, I would say. You kind of just like you're in your young 20s and you're just living life, partying. And so here I am just living my best life, really just not taking care of my body. But at the same time, I worked hard and I played hard. I was always the person that always had 3 jobs, always running from one job to the next. I was always goal oriented. So I always had a goal. So when I was young, my goal was to pay for my car. And then when I was 19, I went on my first backpacking experience and I went solo. I was by myself. I went to 4 different countries.
Where did you go?
I started in Italy, then I went to Spain, then I went to, France, and then I went to London. Yes,
okay.
UK, yeah. So that was my first journey.
What, I've traveled solo, but I know a lot of people think, they would never travel solo. But I think it's so important to travel solo if that's something you want to do. So what kind of gave you the courage, or why did you travel alone?
Yeah, so going back to how I found yoga, I was always going from one thing to the next. And so I was working at an office and it just was a hard place to be. It was male dominant and I just didn't feel respected. And usually month ends are really hard at that time. And so it was month end. And
what was that job again?
I was working as an accounting clerk at a company. And I didn't want to say the name because I didn't have a really great experience.
For sure. We'll keep it confidential.
Very male dominant. And I just didn't feel respected. And so I was the one, paying them, doing accounts payables, receivables, paying out their commissions. And I would ask for paperwork to be so I can compensate them. And they just wouldn't do their work. And so they didn't get paid. And then they would get mad at me. But I can't pay you from nothing. I needed proof. And so that was really hard. And people would yell at me. And here I'm just a 20-year-old, So it was, so I was having a hard time. And when I was at the Bloor West area in Toronto at this time, and I was crying, and it was our lunch break, and I was just so frustrated, and my eyes were just full of water because I was crying. And so I didn't see a sandwich board in front of me, and I literally bumped into it, and it said, "Try yoga."
Oh, really?
And so I did. So I tried yoga, and that I never looked back after that first class.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it's because my brain's always moving, my body's always moving. And it's the one thing that slowed me down.
Yeah.
And just really allowed me to connect with myself, because it's fast paced in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so that was my first kind of breath of fresh air, and just breath in my moment.
So your sign was, you literally hit a sign.
I literally hit a sign.
A yoga sign. So like, you know, because you went to university for this career, right?
Yeah. So
and you had
I
already
went to
graduated. You went to Ryerson.
Yeah. And then so I did an undergrad in business accounting. And so that's how I got into that field. And I was working and going to school at the same time. And it was actually a really great experience, because it allowed me to apply what I was learning to real time.
Yeah.
And so it was a really good experience. Also a really good experience to be like, you know what? That's not for me.
Yeah. Was that something, like, when you were a little kid, what did you always dream of being?
I didn't really know.
Have something?
I kind of always go with the seat of my pants to see where...
I'm the same way. I've never had that one career in mind. But what made you take the steps to, you know, go to Ryerson for that career? It was accounting, right?
Yeah, business accounting.
Business accounting, okay.
My parents told me to do it, so I did it.
Okay. But there's a lot of pressure from your parents?
Yeah, it was just, you know, to do well in life and in school, and to work hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were always just wanting the best for me. So they were, you know, go to school and you got to work. And, but at the same time, we lived in a house where my parents worked 2 jobs, and everybody just had a lot of jobs. And so that's what I was raised by. And so I think it's carrying forward now, because I still am like this. So then I found yoga in just like in that rut of just figuring myself out, and it just came at the right time.
So let's take us back a little bit. So you were in business accounting for 4 years. It's a 4-year program. And, you know, then you were maybe a year into that new job? Or just kind of started?
I would say,
So kind of what was your life like at that time, right before you hit that sandwich board?
So yes, I had 2 jobs at the same time. I was working at the Eaton Center. I was working at a gas and G machine. And always trying to get the newest clothes, you know, like that was my mindset then. And then, so in order to pay for these expensive name brand clothes, I had to work there. And then I went to school at Ryerson right after high school. And so it was kind of a place to just work and go to school. It was all in the same area, like literally my Rogers School of Business building was right above the Eaton Center.
Okay, good. So, nice.
And
then, very convenient.
And then I actually had this job, and I was working there as the receptionist. And then, you know, you just work your way up, and then I got into the accounting department. And then actually my boss at that time was really helpful, and I would ask him questions that was happening in school, and he would help me understand it in the real world. And so that's how that life was. And then I just knew it wasn't for me, just because of how much pressure and how much I was just really unhappy. Yeah.
Like, what was the turning point for, like, you know, you're in this job? Like, did you feel pressure to stay in that job? You did the university, or like, what was your mind going through at that time?
It was a really scary thing, but I just knew that I shouldn't be this unhappy in a place that I can't just force myself to be. Of how scary is it to tell your parents, I'm quitting my job, I'm quitting school, I'm just going to go to India to do my yoga teacher training. And they were just, can you just imagine?
Okay, so you hit the sandwich board, you hit your sign, and then like you went to one yoga class and that was it? Like describe that yoga. What was that yoga class experience? Take us back. Tell us that story.
It was a moksha hot yoga class. And it was an hour class. It was a hot class. And I just came out feeling refreshed and saying, yeah, this is what I want to do. So I was practicing for a year until someone said, hey, you should really do the yoga teacher training. So I did. Actually, it was from September. And then I went, wow, I thought it was a full year in my head, but it really was not. My first yoga class was in September. And by February of, 6 months later, I was in India.
Okay. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big step because, some people might just take the class and be like, okay, I'm going to become a devoted, just a yoga student.
Yeah.
But what was it that kind of made you want to be like certified in it, like a teacher? What kind of made you take that step?
I just wanted to share that feeling, that feeling stuck, and that you don't have to feel that. You don't have to be that. You don't have to force it. You kind of just have to find a way that makes you happy, in a way that allows you to be true to yourself. Because I could have just played that mask of just going on, and I would have been 10 years deep and being unhappy. And then, so I'm glad and I'm blessed that I found it really early.
Oh yeah. Because you were 20?
Yeah. I was also the youngest person to do my yoga teacher training. I was the youngest person there.
That was cool. So how long was the training in India? How long was that?
So it is a year training.
What? You were there for a whole year?
No, we did our intensive in India. So I was there for it's a month training, but you go before and after. So I was in India for about 6 weeks, I would say, 6 to 7 weeks. And then we explored India after, and then I continued on backpacking from there. And then you would do a year of training, practice training, hands-on training, and then a distance training. So a year later, we would do a little graduation.
So when you were doing your yoga training, I assume it's quite intense.
It's very intense.
And was there a moment where you're like, what am I doing?
It was a lot. It was very therapeutic. And I think that's why I fell in love with yoga. It was the idea of, it was like going to therapy, but without it being therapy, because back then therapy wasn't cool.
Yeah, 100%. Now everyone needs a therapist.
Now everyone needs a therapist, right?
If I only had health insurance.
So that was my therapy. So while I was doing my training, yes, I was training how to get into the poses safely, and we were learning anatomy and learning the philosophy and, that deep into academic work. But it was more of a soul searching experience. It allowed me to work through my issues, work through my internal dialogue, work through my insecurities. There's a lot of tears. Yeah.
What were some of those insecurities you were dealing with?
Just figure out who I am. Who am I? And I just kept on saying, it's am I trying to be somebody I'm not? And I guess that's where the soul searching happens. Yeah. I still am figuring out.
Yeah.
It's not it all happened in that 1 month. No, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Lifelong journey. I know. I felt that really intensely. Even now, it's always a journey. But throughout my 20s, okay, who am I? What am I trying to go for? What do I want to put my energy into? Because I've always kind of always go all in and things like that. Never had that one career in mind. So kind of finding your passion. I feel that almost became a negative word to me. What's my passion? What's my passion? Is that kind of what you were feeling a little bit?
It was finding my passion.
Yeah.
And then allowed me to really figure out who I am. I'm just more of a creative person. I'm not a very look at numbers person.
Yeah. 100%. We're thankful for those people. But definitely being in a more creative field. And so, so you hit the sandwich board sign. You took your, under a year of yoga classes in Toronto. You spent some time in India. Then like, did you have a different job as you were building your yoga career?
Yeah. So it's also not financially
Right.
stable to just be a yoga teacher. But in my head, I really just wanted to be a yoga teacher. So when I first came out, I was just super excited and very eager. I was teaching at 9 different yoga studios.
Wow.
Yeah. All over Toronto.
My goodness.
All over. And like the GTA. So that included Brampton. That included Hamilton. Like, everywhere.
Did your hours equal up to like a full-time job?
It did.
Wow.
Yeah.
But still a lot of driving.
Yeah, it was. And it came to a point, maybe because I was 20, like I must have had energy, but I would teach, they would be a double or a triple. It depends. So in the morning I would teach a double, and then in the evenings I would teach a triple. And some days I would teach 5 days and some days I would teach 4. My goal to have some steady pay was to teach 4 classes a day. And so that's what my body was used to, and that's what I'm used to.
Right.
And then it just came to a point that there was a lot of teachers and not enough classes. So the more teacher trainings came up, more classes, more teachers came up and less classes. So then I did have to find another job. And then so that allowed me to work for another company, and then I was their office manager.
Right.
So I was an office manager and a yoga teacher.
There we go. A little bit of both worlds, a little bit of both.
Yeah. And then so I guess that first step of that career choice has helped me throughout. Like I am at this office managing position, I was doing their accounting work. So I was
So that's still kind of, even so your
still now
university degree still kind of helped you to where you are today. That's what I always feel like when I was a teacher for 6 years, and when I left teaching, you kind of think like before you make the decision, you kind of think this is like, you know, a really hard decision, really tough. But as soon as you make it and you know it's the right one, you're like, oh, that was actually easy. That was easy to leave it, just to kind of get over that insecurity and that doubt. And then it's never a waste. Like nothing is like your 4-year degree was never a waste, because you're, you know, using those skills to run this beautiful place. And so I always kind of feel like people kind of, I've worked with a lot of people in their 20s, just because I worked some summer jobs and some different places. And it's interesting being now like in my 30s and hearing their stress. So you can have that stress at any age, but just kind of the stress of like, okay, picking a major, picking this, like, and I almost want to tell them like, you know, don't rush. I guess I studied fine arts just randomly. So I guess I never felt that pressure, maybe, but in different ways. But
no, I did feel that sense of failure, like failing at I was what I'm supposed to do. And it was just like, do I force what I'm supposed to do am I going to be unhappy? And I was like, you know what, it's my life. And if I'm broke, at least I'm happy.
At least I'm calm. At least I'm calm.
We'll make it work.
100%. I'm always curious, like, I know you're still like on this journey of, you know, life is a journey, right? You're always kind of figuring yourself out. But what would you say to people that are like feel lost?
Just trust the process, trust the universe, look for the signs. And
what should they do?
They should try to let go of control, try to let go of what's supposed to be. You have this idea of where your life is supposed to go. I did not think I'd be in a small town, just to let you know. If I was following my plan, I would not be here.
Which brings me to Hamiota. So how in the world did you go from Toronto to Hamiota? And that's no slight on like, nothing's wrong with a small town. I grew up in a small town. It's all good. But it's crazy. Like, you know, Toronto to the Manitoba prairies, minus 30 some of the time. Sometimes plus 30, you know.
And to give you more context, like I lived in downtown Toronto, like where I could walk to the I could walk to watch much music. And I had to cut the grass.
That's where I should have been born. I should have been born in Toronto.
Where I had to cut the grass for the first time in my life when I was 30 because there was no grass to cut.
That's sometimes the comparison I use to when I was an exchange student in Taiwan. And people ask me, like, what was it like or whatever. And A, that was my first time on a plane. Yeah. And B, I had never even rode the city bus before. So I had no city experience. And so everything I did in the city in Taiwan was like, I've never even done that in Canada because I was from a farm. So that was opposite. You were from downtown. And so how'd you end up in Hamiota?
So going back to it always all starts with like that first step of letting go of what my life was supposed to look like and be. After going to India and doing my yoga teacher training, I realized I like working with kids. And so I'm still trying to figure out, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? Right. So then I did my kids yoga teacher training right after. And I loved working with kids. And so that was my first step. It's like, okay, now you know what you like. You like working with kids. So then I actually went back to school, and I'm also an early childhood educator.
Really?
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. So I'm an early childhood educator as well. And so then I'm doing it all. I'm teaching yoga. I'm going to school, and I'm working at this office.
Okay, all the things. I love that. I feel like, all the things. So wait, you're going to school for early childhood?
Yeah, to be an ECE.
Okay, to work at like the daycare.
Yeah, so I had a life goal. So
that's
first
awesome.
to figure out was like, okay, do I want to be a school teacher? That's where my end goal was. So there was this bridging program because I already went to Ryerson. So they had this bridging program. So if you did like your 2 years at Sheridan College, then you could bridge. And then I already have my courses. So then I don't have to do so many courses. I don't have to do another 4 years. And then at that time to go into teacher's college was only 1 year.
Oh, okay.
So, and because of that feeling that I had, I was behind in life.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at earlier. Like you just feel behind.
I felt behind. And I was like, okay, everybody's doing things, and I'm still trying to figure out where I am, what I'm doing tomorrow. And so so through yoga I learned that I liked working with kids. And then so I went into ECE, and I was working at school at the office, and I went to a kind of like a little retreat. I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And
what kind of retreat? Like, was it a yoga retreat? Or?
Yeah, it was like a earth medicine retreat. Okay. And it was a very spiritual experience. Yeah. It was a 3-day retreat, and it allowed me, again, better than therapy. Yeah. That was like 20 years or 10 years of therapy in that short amount of time.
I'm going to have to get your advice, because I've always just thought of, like, I feel like first, Nicole, you have to just meditate at home, accomplish that one goal. But then I would love to go on like meditation retreats, yoga retreats. I'll have to ask you for places. So
then I went to this retreat.
Where was it? Sorry?
It was in Coldberg in Toronto, in Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I went to this retreat, and I had this clear vision, and I can even tell you because it was so clear. I was walking through a school, and you know how when you walk through a school and you put your hands by the lockers?
For sure.
I was walking my hands through, and it was like a brick wall, and then I could just feel it. Yeah. And so I knew I was in the school. Wow. And at that moment, it was in a different country. Mm-hmm. And so at that moment, I said, okay, I'm going to Peru.
Oh, Peru.
So that
amazing.
was...
How'd you decide Peru?
This meditation retreat.
Okay. Like it was in the vision as well.
Yeah. It said, go to Peru. So I said, okay, because I'm all about finding signs.
Oh my God. I have to go on this meditation. What should I do? No, that's awesome though. Because it clears you up and... Yeah,
it just... I don't even know how... It was like the sandwich board. It was like... the universe has probably been giving me so many signs, and I'm like looking around, like so just caught in my head and in my life, and it's like, girl, listen, I'm gonna hit you with the sandwich board. Yeah. And so I feel like that's what it was. It's like I'm giving you signs, and so that was my clear sign to go to Peru.
So the sandwich board that said, go to yoga, you went, and then,
I go into this I go into this retreat, and it was a clear sign to go to Peru. So I was
That's
volunteering.
very cool.
Yeah, so I was volunteering at an orphanage or a shelter.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the whole yoga community was behind me. So I asked them what they needed instead of the regular like school books and pens and papers and stuff. I collected children's vitamins. So I would do like, it's called karma classes. So you would teach classes for free and people just come and drop off the vitamins. So I was going to Peru with a backpack full of vitamins.
There you go.
Yes. And so I thought it was a great idea.
Did anybody stop you at the border?
That's how I met my husband. And then so we didn't technically meet in Peru, but he was in the same flight as me I guess he was coming from Toronto to Bogota. So there was a layover in Bogota and I had a piece of paper and he asked where I got it. And I said, I don't know. I woke up and there was a piece of paper in front of me.
Wait, you guys were sitting beside each other on the plane?
No, this was when we departed and we were in a line to go through customs.
This is when you first met?
Yes, this is when we first met.
Wait, you had a paper in your hand?
I had customs paper, I would say.
Oh, okay. And then that was his first words to you?
Yeah. It's
like he was in line with you?
He's lined up right behind me. He said, where did you get those papers?
Oh, I see. Okay, where'd you get those custom papers?
And I said, I don't know. I just woke up and it was in front of me. And he's a very friendly guy. So we got talking and he asked what I'm doing in Peru. And I was really honest. And I said, I am going to go and volunteer at an orphanage and do all these things and explore at the same time. And he kind of looked at me. He's like, so you're going to Peru with a bunch of pills in your backpack? And I'm like, oh, I didn't look at it that way. And so here I am just like jiggling.
How old were you at that point?
I was 22, 23. No, I was 23 then. Yeah, I was 23 then. I'm just like, a bunch of drugs.
So did he offer to take some of those pills and put them in his sock? It was love at first drug bust, right?
Drug bust.
Okay, so what happened after that?
So we had a 2-hour layover, and I asked him what he was there for. And then remember how I went to do that retreat in Coburg, and it was this herbal meditation, retreat.
Yeah.
Earth's medicine, let's call it, retreat. And then he said, well, I'm going to Peru for this. And I said, no way.
Can you tell us what it is?
It's ayahuasca.
Oh, so what was he doing there?
He was going to an ayahuasca retreat.
Oh, and what is ayahuasca again? The same thing?
That I did when I was in Coburg.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I was invited, and it's a invite only. I was invited, and I went to that retreat, and that was that clear vision that I had. Yeah. And then he said, well, I've been reading up on it, and I'm also going there for ayahuasca. And I said, hey, ayahuasca told me to come to Peru. Wow. So I like to say ayahuasca brought us together.
Oh my gosh. And also, how the Hamiota boy?
I have no idea.
Not judging, prairie boys, but how did he find out about this retreat?
Well, he was doing his research, and it was something that he's been genuinely wanting to try. He started at first with a podcast, and he was listening up on it, and then he heard about it, and so he was on his way to do an ayahuasca retreat, and ayahuasca told me to come to Peru.
Okay, so you met in the lineup. I've always kind of, whenever I have a boyfriend now, but whenever I've met guys, I've always been like, okay, we're talking, we meet in the airport. What is the next step? Do I ask for his number? Does he ask me for his number? So what happened there?
So actually, and then we boarded our plane to go to Peru, and we weren't even sitting together at all. It was just during that layover. And then he did his custom stuff and he hugged me goodbye. And I know this is really crazy. Remember how I'm about following signs?
Yeah, I love it already.
He literally gave me a shock, like a static shock. I hugged him and he shocked me.
Sparks, it was sparks.
As in when you accidentally do static shock, and I was like, oh, that's weird. That's really weird. But I'm like, okay,
and then
because I was carrying drugs, he was worried
Of course. Hamiota boys are always worried about.
So he actually waited for me at the exit, like, because you exited the building if you passed.
I have a feeling that you just being a very pretty lady had nothing to do with it.
I don't know, but it was like 2 a.m. Like, nobody ever looks good traveling. Like, come on. I was in a hoodie. It was like 2 a.m. when that layover was. Like, we did red eye, okay? We were both 20. It was like a red eye flight. Like, it looks good at 2 a.m.
That's
when you're So that's it. Like, it can't be because he thinks I'm pretty.
So, okay, what happened after that?
So then he shocked me, and then I was like, "That's weird." And
literally, physically, or not physically, but literally, metaphysically.
And then he waited for me at the airport, and I thought, "Okay, that's cute. Like, thanks for checking up on me." And I thought, but again, I meet people at the airport all the time.
Solo traveler. It's kind of what people do. Yeah.
And then so he gave me his email because emails.
Yes.
He gave me his email, and then I was like, okay, bye. And I went on a different flight to go to Cusco. That's where I was. So I went, I landed in Lima, and I went straight to Cusco where he was staying in Lima.
Okay.
And when I was in Lima, I was like, okay, have a good life. Like, bye.
Never see you again.
Yeah, because he's in a whole different, like, we're in the same country, but he's in.
I made the cross with the drugs. Good. Kids will get their vitamin C.
But
that's so cool.
But on my flight, I couldn't go back to sleep because I was like, that's weird. Like, he literally shocked me. And I was like, I think I'm going to email him. So then I landed in Cusco, and I said, hey, I'm in Cusco. I'm going to be here for X amount of days. And he's like, okay, I'm coming. So we spent a week together in Cusco. And then,
That's what dreams are made of.
And then he went, and then I did my volunteering. He continued on to the ayahuasca retreat.
Yeah.
I continued traveling to Peru, and then I went back to Toronto.
Yeah.
And then when I got back to Toronto, I got a message from him saying, what are your thoughts about me changing my flights and coming to Toronto?
Oh, I love this man. And
so I said, yeah, come. So he was supposed to be in Peru for like a month, and he left a week early.
Okay.
And came to Toronto, and he had to be home at a certain time because he had other plans. So he shortened his trip to Peru and then spent it with me in Toronto, and then he went home at the time he was.
And how was that week in Toronto?
It was good. It was okay. So imagine.
Wait, I gotta stretch my legs. I feel like.
So my sister is 9 years older than me.
This is okay, right? Yeah.
Yeah. My sister is 9 years older than me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I've met this, like, and I tell my sisters, like, I met this guy and whatever. I met him
at this guy at the airport.
At the airport in Peru. And my sister, just the big sister that she is, was like, I brought him to my sister's house to me, and he's like, hi, nice to meet you. What's your intention with my sister?
Yeah. Oh, like your sister.
In Toronto.
Yeah. So your sister kind of like.
Yeah. Oh, just like went right for it. Like what big sisters
Proud
do.
Of her. Who's this weirdo? Who's this guy?
Yeah. And then, so he came, and then that was in March when he, we went to Peru in February, and then in March he came after our traveling.
Okay.
And then in April he's like, do you want to come to Hamiota?
Wait a second, let me backtrack here. I lost my train of thought. I also kind of my mind used the boat meditation. So you had the week in Toronto, and then when's the next time you saw him?
In April, when he asked me to come to Hamiota.
Oh wow, that was it. Like that was okay.
And then
how many months after that Toronto visit was that?
Like a month later,
I would say. A month later.
Yeah, a month later.
Wow, there wasn't even like, let's meet halfway.
Well, he's like, I want to show you my world. It's like, 100%. I saw your world, and I met him. He met all my friends.
Honestly, I love this. I feel like people don't like there's dreamers, and then there's like realists, but I feel like people don't, dream and hope. Yeah. Because like he could have been like, oh man.
Yeah.
She's in Toronto.
I know.
Whatever.
I know.
But I love that logically, for him and for you guys.
Yeah. Logically, it made no sense.
Yes. Yeah.
My friends were like, okay.
Yeah.
And his family and friends was probably like, okay, Jeff.
Yeah.
But
But really, why not? Why
We just
like
went,
he's not sorry. He's not like he's not, you know, you got positive vibes, it's safe.
Yeah.
So why not have that experience? So how was your initial reaction to Hamiota?
Well, first he said he lived in Winnipeg.
Oh, damn. Classic small town Manitoba.
Because it's kind of like, oh, where do you live? Oh, just Winnipeg. But like, that's like a point of reference.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I actually physically thought he lived in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But I did not realize it was a point of reference.
Yeah.
So then, we spent a week in Winnipeg, and I had friends in Winnipeg. So then I also introduced my friends to him to be like, hey, if I disappear.
Yeah. Okay, so you were aware of Manitoba then.
Yeah.
I know some people, you know.
Like I was aware of Winnipeg. I had no idea what any, like, just like all city people. I don't know anything else beyond the city. Yeah. So I didn't know anything else beyond Winnipeg. And then he's like, okay, we're going to drive to my place now. And he said it was 3 hours away. And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And I fell asleep like 10 minutes out off the highway. Long distance isn't a thing.
Well, that would have been unheard of for you, right? Like, unless your family took road trips.
Yeah, we did, but like an hour away.
Yeah.
That was our road trip. Like, we would go camping as a family an hour away. Yeah. I was like, that child, are we there yet? Or like, did we even move? Like, it still looks flat.
Yeah.
And when they said you can, like, when you would talk about the prairies, they would say, like, oh, you can watch your dog run away for days. You literally can. I did not know how true that was. Yeah. Like, it's flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good impression?
Yeah. And then I did not realize, like, you know, this would be a month into knowing this guy existed, you know, like this is, but when you're in a small town, you kind of can't just like hide. Yeah. So then I met his family, I met his friends, like we were just like right in and like, okay. Yeah.
So when did you think or know that there might be like a future?
Well, okay, so this is another crazy, this is how crazy I am.
Yeah, I love it. I'm all there.
So when I met him, it wasn't like meeting someone new. It was like, oh, hey, nice to see you again. Mm-hmm. Like we just, I don't want to sound really like cheesy and cliche, but it was like that instant connection where it wasn't like, it was catching up. I don't even know how to explain it.
Well, I felt that way with just like other people I've met. Yeah. I can't say I felt that with all dudes I've met. But like just other, some dudes that were just friends. Like I should say just friends, but like I've met some like female friends overseas when you're just like
instant connection.
Like you know, it's as if we've been friends for forever.
Yeah.
So I hear you.
That's what it felt like. Nice. So I would say everything was easy. Remember how I was saying, like, when you force things and there was nothing forced. It was just easy and I could be myself. And he never judged how I was because this is still the same. This is it. I'm still all over the place. I'm still chaotic and this is it. Yeah. And he just allowed me to be the way that I am because I didn't stop doing what I love because I met him. Like I still solo traveled. Yeah. Yeah. We did the long distance for a long time.
How long?
I would say about 1.5 years.
That's not that long.
I know.
It's long. Yeah. But so 1.5 years.
1 year. Yeah, and a half.
And then
I moved here.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
you 24 then? 23?
I was 24. Okay. 25 by the time this came around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so take me back to that moment where, like, that pivotal moment in your life where you're like, okay, like, because to move, that's a big move.
Yeah.
So take me back to that moment where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like, what was that like?
So
tell me the story.
So just to kind of explain myself and how my brain works, I'm kind of like both feet in all the time.
Oh, yes.
I'm a doer. And then because my logical brain, if I'm like, then I'd overthink and it would make no sense. Like, how could my heart and my brain ever agree that it's okay to leave your family, your friends, your whole life, what you're comfortable with, like the people around you, like my brain would never be like, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of just had to really follow my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's been successful. Okay, then I imagine there would have been a little bit of a hard time, like the adjustment.
Yeah.
Like small town life.
Yeah. So this is an example of, you know how I'm like, I never follow plans.
Yeah.
This is, if I was supposed to go from A, B to C, I went from A to Z, and then back to M maybe.
Yeah.
I came back to B. So I'm still in school. I'm still in school. I am still working my job. I'm still a yoga teacher, but I felt behind. And so I did a 2-year course under 1 year because I was just trying to.
When did you feel behind? Now or at 24?
At that moment when I met Jeff, So
24, you said lots of time, but I know when you're 24, you feel.
I felt behind at that time, and I don't know why or who I was comparing myself to, but what is behind mean? Mm-hmm. So if I could just talk to my younger self, it's like, you're just moving the way that you move.
Yeah.
So I was in school, and while I was in school, what made me choose this school was they had a intern program that you can do your internship in a different country. And I was like, love it.
Right,
love traveling. And so again, I had a goal, and to get accepted, you needed a 4.0 GPA. You needed to be X amount of things. Yeah. And I did that just so I can get in.
And you're in Hamiota at this time?
Nope.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, you haven't moved yet.
I haven't moved yet. So that was like how I got here. But during that time, remember that year and a bit of being with that long distance. And it kind of helped that I had a boyfriend that was far. So then I can really focus on my school, my work, and my yoga.
Definitely.
Again, doing it all, right?
Yeah. Sometimes long distance boyfriends are okay. You just.
So there I am doing my
thing. Get a lot done. You get more done.
And then he's there supporting me from a distance. Yeah. So it allowed me to focus on what I needed to get done.
Yeah, definitely.
And then so I got accepted, and out of 200 applicants, I was one of the 8 that got accepted. And so I did my intern in Hong Kong, where I was teaching kindergarten, because again, my goal was to be a kindergarten teacher.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah. Just in line. And then I had my GPA, so then I could go right into my bridging program in Ryerson, do 1 year, and then do my teacher's college. In 2 years, I would have been a kindergarten teacher.
There we go.
In that choice, in that life.
But that didn't happen.
That did not happen.
Okay, so you took the Hamiota route instead.
Yes, and I'll tell you how.
Okay.
So after I went to Hong Kong,
Okay, so you did go there. Yeah.
I went to Hong Kong, and I did my intern, and I was teaching kindergarten there, and it was a great experience, and it allowed me to be like, yes, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And then from Hong Kong, I traveled. So it was May, June, July, and August. So I was traveling for 4 months.
Awesome.
So from Hong Kong, I went to China, mainland China. Then I went to Vietnam, and I went to Bali. And then before I came home, Jeff was like, hey, home is Toronto. And he's like, well, before you go home, why don't you spend a month here? I'm like, you know what? I haven't, I had a placement. I knew a job that I lined up with, and they were going to start in September, and I knew that. And so I said, you know what? Why not? Like, my job isn't going to start until September. And so I spent a month too long in Hamiota.
Let's go back to that month. Was it in the summer?
Yeah, it was in the summer.
Let's go back to that month.
Yeah, it was like end of July, mid-July to mid-August, and it was harvest time for him. So it allowed me to see like what harvest was like. But again, I was visiting, so he came home at a good time, so he can spend time with me before I left.
He took you for a ride on that big green tractor. That's really sweet. That's really good.
So and then I was there a month too long, I guess. And it was and then I came home, and my sister was having a baby, and I was her support person. So that was another rush of like why I wanted to come home. Yeah. I planned her baby shower, and then I just wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling 100%. And
like, you weren't feeling 100% in Hamiota.
after I left Hamiota, I went home because my sister was having a baby.
So there you weren't feeling 100%.
It was 100%. And my sister, I was in the hospital room and she just had her baby, and I'm holding Callie. She's just like this little thing, and I'm telling my sister, I'm like, oh, I don't feel good. This is how I feel. And she goes, last time I felt like that I was pregnant.
Oh my God.
And I was like, no way. I'm not pregnant.
And what happened after that moment?
And my friend at that time was visiting, and she's moving to Brazil. She's Brazilian, moving back to Brazil, and was like, and I'm telling her this, and my sister's telling me this. She's like, Bella, I think you're pregnant. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like denial. And then I took a pregnancy. Well, she bought me. It was like, she's like,
here we go,
slapping me with the sign.
That's interesting how just that feeling, you're like not feeling 100%.
Like
I was
physically.
thinking, I was thinking mentally, but you were physically okay.
Physically not feeling 100%.
Okay,
it's like,
physically.
Weird. And like, those like weird nauseous feeling that your body's changing.
Yeah.
She literally hit me with a pregnancy test. I did it, and I was pregnant, and I was like,
wow.
Oh, well, shit.
Here we go. Oh, wow.
And it was an hour before I was teaching a yoga class. And I was like, it was in the morning, and there's a time difference of 7 a.m. in Toronto time, 6 a.m. here. I called Jeff, and we planned out our life. And he's like, okay, so let's, you're moving here. I said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And like, we've always talked about it. And it was, again, an easy conversation. We just knew the steps. It was hard to make. My brain would not let me leave where I am.
Oh, yeah.
But following my heart, following where I know where I needed to be, it was that knowing. And that's why it was easy. It was an easy choice to make. But would I have made that choice if I was not pregnant? I would still be like, maybe let's wait another year, or like, let's just see, you know? So Maitreya made my mind for me.
There we go. Yeah. Well, because I feel you with the overthinking and like making those big decisions. And sometimes you just have to let life, like, you still want to be, aware of what you're doing, but just like being open to those signs. And obviously that was a blessing.
Yeah. In disguise. At that moment, I was like, sure. Holy shit. I literally just landed from like 4 months of traveling. I was like, I don't even, like, I haven't even started my job. I'm jobless.
Oh my goodness. Goodness.
But I still,
like, I guess you already kind of maybe said, but like, take us back to that conversation. Like, it was comfortable. Like, he wasn't panicked.
No, he was so comfortable.
Yeah.
Also, I think we both manifested it without admitting that we manifested it. It was one of those things that, okay, I know this is going to sound crazy.
I'm all about the crazy.
I am in Hong Kong. No, I'm in Beijing. I am in Beijing, and I'm going through the market, and I see this cute baby dress. And I'm like, I'm never coming back to China. I'm just going to buy this dress. But do you think I would tell him? Like, no, I can't be that crazy person buying it.
You were already nesting. Were you pregnant at that time?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. I wasn't sure the time.
No, I was not.
I need a timeline to keep my...
I know, right?
Yeah, but that's so
that was like, and that's why I'm like, maybe my brain knew. I have no idea, but we just knew.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, so I come after traveling, I buy this thing that I'm not going to tell him I bought a baby dress. And then
just in case.
And then so he listens to this one podcast, and he bought one of their books, and the book was A Better Baby Book.
Oh.
He bought a book. And
interesting.
And it was just like talking about, he's like, I bought it because it's talking about like health and nutrition and whatever.
Yeah.
And so like, why did he buy a baby book? And why did I buy...
Just got all these baby things now.
It was, isn't it? So
that's interesting.
So we both like, it was weird. Isn't that weird?
That's like, I don't know, like, I don't know much about unexpected pregnancies, but like, I feel like usually there's not those other signs kind of adding in, and I like that.
Yeah,
like,
but it wasn't in my plans. Like I was supposed to. I was going to be a teacher in 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, but That's really cool though.
Yeah. And so I came, I didn't know how serious he was because I'm just like, what are we doing?
That was a worry, right?
That
like
was
when you
a worry,
told him?
yeah. And then he came during harvest, and I didn't know how big of a deal that was.
Harvest is big.
I didn't know, but he left, and he came to Toronto for a weekend for 4 days.
He's a good Hamiota boy.
Yeah, and we told my parents together.
Yeah.
Also, it was to show that my parent, because like my poor mom.
I was gonna ask, like, how was the moment with your parents? So he came, you told them together,
And we told him together, just so they could see that
wasn't some random drug dealing.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
I'm sure your parents were shocked.
They were so shocked. Yeah. My dad cried.
Oh.
Yeah, because he knew that meant me moving.
Yeah.
They were happy.
Yeah, but
sad.
Still. Okay.
So that's how I got here.
So,
long story short,
you met a farm. Like, he's a full-time farmer.
Yeah.
You met a farmer in the line. I love that. In the lineup, and then the rest is history. So you're here, and I'm sure that would be a shock being here. You have a baby on the way, and all that stuff, and then so your dreams were shifted, and so let's flash forward to here. Right? So how did, you have your own business, and you gave me a whole tour, and it's beautiful. You have like a sauna that's being built.
Yeah.
You're going to put in an ice room. You have this yoga studio. You have the gym being built in the back. You won that 20 grand from Infusion. So what was that step? Or take us back to that day where you're like, I want a building. I want a business. Was there a day?
No,
was there a moment?
Just following these signs. Yeah. Just being pushed into making decisions. Because brain and heart don't want to do the same thing. But so I knew I loved yoga, and I wanted to continue to teach that.
Yeah.
So I was working here as an EC at the daycare, and then I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And also then I continued to do what I love, which is yoga. So then I started a yoga class in my basement because Jeff is just always so supportive. Jeff's like, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to teach yoga. And so we made the basement into a yoga studio space.
Perfect.
And then in that space we had 4 people, and then from there I continued to grow. I was teaching at community centers. I was teaching all over. I taught in Birtle, Hamiota, Oak River, some in Verdun here, Shoal Lake, around surrounding areas. And that's how I built my name.
Yeah, because, that's one of your dreams, yoga. That was a huge part of you, still is. And so when you got here, did you find, how was the yoga scene?
Non-existent at that moment. And I did feel like the crazy lady, just trying to, but I just stayed true to what I felt was needed.
Was there a moment where you thought, okay, this isn't going to happen in this town?
No, because everybody was so accepting of it. Okay. It was, it's scary. And at first everybody was resistant. Yeah. But then when they experienced it, it just grew. And it grew through word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even you have hot yoga.
Yeah.
I feel like hot yoga. I've just recently done it in Brandon.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
It's a whole experience.
It's a whole different experience.
And when you walk outside, I do feel like, I haven't done it in the summer, but in the colder, in the fall and the winter, I just feel like I breathe better. After a yoga class.
It's this refreshing feeling as soon as you come out. Yeah.
So everyone should experience.
And so I'm teaching yoga in my basement, and I have Maitreya, and then I had Miles, my second one, right after. And I'm a part of this Manitoba yoga group. And a lady was selling her heaters because she was closing down her studio in Saskatchewan. She was somewhere in Saskatchewan, I can't remember where. And she was closing her studio. And she had all these heating panels. And I said, I want those heating panels. I don't have a yoga studio, but when I do.
I love that.
Yeah.
You build it, they will come.
Literally, build it, they will come.
You know what? That is really cool.
Yeah.
That you didn't even have the spot for it.
No.
Because even myself, I'm starting this creative media business, and I was like, okay, like, do I buy the microphones before I have the client, or like, do I kind of wait, but then I can't, service them until I have that? And so it's kind of this thing of like, being an entrepreneur, right? Like when to kind of go all in. So like, how soon after did you have those heating panels that you started this journey?
4 years later.
Okay.
So it was 2016 I bought the heating panels, and she was in Saskatchewan. But of course, it was, she's like, hey, I'm actually going to drive by. You want to meet me in Verdun? And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Again, it just was easy. Yeah. It just worked.
Were you nervous to have your own store? Or you don't call it a store?
A studio.
A studio, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what was that kind of turning point for you to kind of be like, okay, I'm buying a place?
Well, again, it came when I didn't need it to come.
Okay.
So, like when I've been manifesting it, I've been asking for it, and it shows up in the most inconvenient time.
Interesting.
So,
what was the inconvenience?
Well, I just had a baby.
Yes. So, sorry, not an inconvenience, a blessing. But yes, I just had a baby, and so our house was actually too small, and we only had a 2-bedroom upstairs. Right.
And the kids were sharing a room, and we had a room. And then with this third baby, our 2 little ones couldn't move to the basement. They were only 3 and 5. They couldn't move to the basement at all. So what we were doing was we were doing a house reno.
Okay.
And so to expand the upstairs so we could have another bedroom. Mm-hmm. And then so everything from the reno had to move to the basement where my home studio was. And so I was thinking, and I said out loud, what am I going to do? The studio's being, it's busy. I could rent the hall, and I was just, thinking of other ideas of how I could teach yoga in the community. And then our friends it was a Brooks Fitness at that time.
Okay.
And they approached us in November and said, do you want to buy our business? And we said, I literally just asked for this. I just didn't think it would be so soon.
Yeah.
So we said yes, November 30th.
Okay. What year was that?
2019.
Okay.
Yeah, and my baby was born July 2019.
Yeah. Things always happen at once. I'm free one weekend, the next weekend I got 5 days.
The A/B to Z.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
So they approached us. We said yes, November 30th, and I had 30 days to build a business. So I had to register our name. All the things, build a website, like all of the things that you didn't need to know.
Well, did you have experience in doing that?
Yeah. So building the website.
Or like, did you have experience in like knowing how to start this business?
Self-taught.
Yeah.
A lot of research, a lot of what to do next. And so if an entrepreneur was to ask me, how did you do it? I will have instructions, because I didn't have that, because nobody told me. Yeah. Nobody told me what I was supposed to do. And it all just unfolded together, but I knew what I needed by working at other companies, at the 9 different yoga studios, that I was also working in one of the offices as well. So then I knew what they did in order to have a yoga studio. So I just applied those same things. Again, nothing is wasted.
Yeah, right? Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted.
So in 30 days, I built a business. And in January 2020, we opened Countryside Studio and Gym. 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That is.
And then that was the old spot, right?
Yes.
And then you came here, but that's congratulations.
Thanks. I'm still currently there.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm, because the gym is under renovation. So
I did see pictures, so I thought, the stuff go.
We currently have 2 places at the moment. Again, it's not ideal. Paying for 2 places, that wasn't the financial plans, but that's just how it unfolded. Things never work out the way you want it to, right?
Yeah. But honestly, this space is like I was telling you earlier, when you're from a small town, I was from Kenton, and then I was from Nipoa, and Nipoa's not tiny, But, there was no dance classes, and my mom and dad would drive us. Even we lived in Kenton, so they would drive me from, age 5 to like grade 10 once a week. My sister and I would go to Brandon, like an hour drive. And so I think people don't understand how awesome it is to have these spaces in small towns.
Yeah.
And just to kind of feel, because I even said sometimes when when it is in a small town, sometimes it's not that nice, which is totally fine. But I just feel, the people who come here, you feel special. You feel because you have dance classes in here, and you just kind of feel like you're, I don't know. What am I looking for? I don't like to say big city, but
someone did say that to me. They're like, you can tell you're not from here because your vision.
But nothing is wrong with, small country and big city, but it just feels, I don't know. I guess I'll just say big city, and that's not negative, but it just feels like it's special.
Yeah.
Important.
It's because I've been to so many studios that I knew how I want my own studio. I kind of picked what I liked and then just put it together. So just think of the space as 20 studios built into one.
There you go.
Inspired by one.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, I'm a person, I'm all about atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I love going to gyms that kind of, I don't know.
Feel welcoming.
Either have a really good community and I meet my friends there, or it's this cool, there's lighting. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like a good atmosphere and a good workout.
Just here for the vibes.
Yeah, just here for the vibes, you guys. Just gonna lay in the mat on the back. Oh, that's awesome. So, you've kind of, in your past, you talked about how you felt like you were behind, you weren't, you didn't get to go to the schooling in Hong Kong or whatever, and you're still, in school. How are you feeling now? Do you feel like you have made it?
No, but tell me what it feels like when you get there.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it feels like. Although I did say to my boyfriend the other day, I say, I feel good. We still have our crying ourselves to sleep moments. But I said, when I was in my early 20s, whatever, I won't get into my whole journey, but my early 20s, I did fine arts. I dabbled in photo and art video.
Yeah.
And I would just take photos of families. I had a little bit of a website, but I never really pursued it. And then I just kind of stopped and did teaching or whatever. But I kind of thought, I don't want to be a photographer. Maybe I wanted something different. And anyways, long story short, but then now I'm doing the photo and the video, and I've fallen back in love with photography, and, just I have some things like producing shows and things like that. And so I told my boyfriend, I'm having people actually contact me.
Yeah.
And take my photos. And so I feel like I'm coming into it. So not there yet. Just enjoying the journey more. And I was always so stressed about, what am I up to? Still have those moments. I still cry a lot. But, I feel like you've, you say you made it, but I feel like you're making it. It's awesome here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those, the confidence and it really is hard juggling being a mom and being an entrepreneur because you have all these ideas. I do wonder what it's like to have a normal people job.
I hear you.
You're okay.
I know I'm working all the time. Yeah.
You can go to work 9 to 5 and then shut off your brain and focus on your family. But my brain doesn't stop because it constantly is thinking about the little things. Actually, I have to pick a handle right now, or pick a shower faucet. Yeah. And, things like that. There's always something. So I don't know what it would feel like to feel okay, this is accomplished, but maybe, just maybe, when this building is done, I could breathe a little bit. But part 1 is done, so this is part 1.
It's gorgeous.
And part 2, when I think part 2 is done, maybe I can come back to that, being how does it feel?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's just enjoying the journey. You got your heat panels up. I feel like that. You made it.
Yeah, And just the fact that I'm taking my kids through this journey. In my community infusion grants, I talk about how my parents are a big inspiration because, you know, they were always working hard and wanting the best. And I'm hoping my kids can see that, but I didn't see that until I'm like, what, 30s?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so is it going to take 30 years for my kids to see that all of this hard work was for them, and not just for them, but with them, you know, hoping that this teaches them to be resilient when things get really hard, because there has been so many times that I wanted to throw in a towel. Because do you think it was ideal to open a gym January 2020 when COVID hit?
I was going to bring up the COVID word. I was like, I'm not going to bring it up.
Yeah.
But honestly, what a terrible time to start.
What a terrible time to start. And I wanted to give up. But at that moment, I couldn't financially give up. I just took a big loan to open that place. And so I couldn't give up. I had no choice.
What, in those moments where you wanted to give up, like why, what kept you going? Like it's COVID.
Yeah.
They had crazy rules for yoga studios.
Yeah, no, I could not even open. I could not open. What kept me going was just being true to myself and just being like, this sucks right now. It will pass. And I know when we get through it, it will be okay. Mm-hmm. And we went through it. And guess what? It was okay.
It's beautiful here.
It was okay. And then it turned out better than I could have imagined. Yeah. Because if you asked me in 2020 if I was going to buy a building, hell no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I hate saying life's a journey, but you know what honestly is?
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like we could talk for hours. Yeah. I feel like we'll need to have a follow-up episode on your travels, on your whole high school.
My whole trauma response.
Yeah. It was definitely.
Yeah.
Kind of winding down. No, we could talk for hours. So, you know, like with this yoga studio, you know, like with your yoga beliefs, you know, what the studio is, like, what is your why?
Why?
Like, why does this mean so much to you?
Because I'm young. I feel like I'm young. But I've lived so many different lives, like so many different lives that I feel like I can understand different aspects, different diversities, different cultures, different ages. And I want them to, it doesn't matter where you come from, that you can still find your true self and you can still find who you are. And this space would be a place for you to quiet your mind, calm down your ego, and to live life with ease and not having to force things. Even though there's a difference between being persistent and forcing. I'm still trying to figure out, like, am I forcing this place, or am I just trying to stay persistent and stay focused and not give up? Yeah. Not giving up is a really big thing, because it's a lot easier to do nothing. But giving up, going through it is the hard thing. So you just have to do the work. Yeah.
That's very brave and very good. Like, even that kind of rung a chord with me, thinking, you know, when I spend all this time editing, when I spend all this time doing extra things to build my business, I'm like, should I? Like, or should I just be on the couch? Like,
it's easy to not edit. It's easy to just do nothing. But if this is what's going to make your heart happy, just keep going.
Yeah, it's very true. And honestly, Hamiota is so blessed to have a space like this to enjoy. And I wish you all the best. We'll have to do a follow-up episode, 100%. Well, Kacey, you know what? So awesome having you on the show. Thanks for having me out.
Thanks for coming and inviting me.
Anytime. Let's stretch out.
I know,
I was like, I have to do an episode where we do like some yoga together.